Awesome. Okay, hello everyone, to our one person joining us right at this moment, and to everyone who's watching the recorded video. My name's Julia Sweeney. I'm Director of Sales at Edcite, and I work with tons of our customers and districts. I'm excited to be helping with this webinar today.
Hi, Amber, and anyone else who has joined us. I'm Nicole. I work with several of our Edcite Schools customers and also manage our marketing efforts. And I'm a former teacher, and I actually used Edcite in my own classroom.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian McIntosh. I work as product manager for Edcite, so I'm always interested in hearing feedback from teachers and administrators about how we can make Edcite better. Excited to be here.
And hi, I'm Sam. I'm an engineer at Edcite. I work with teachers and administrators like you, and mostly Julia, Nicole, and Brian to work on the platform.
Awesome. And I see we've got a few other people that have joined us. So just, again, letting everyone know that we are recording this call. So go ahead and keep yourselves muted, keep the webcams off, and you don't have to worry about being shown in the video. Okay, so today we're going to talk about collaboration and sharing content on Edcite Schools. And one of the key goals of Edcite Schools is to connect teachers and make it easy to collaborate. I'm going to make a really great question. I want to share it with my team, or a coach in my district made this assessment and they want to share it with all of our teachers. So we want to make that possible. Today we're going to go through the process and talk about not only how to do it on Edcite, but also how to guide your thinking when approaching content collaboration and sharing. So the first question we always ask ourselves is, who do we want working together? Who should collaborate? So in your Edcite Schools account, you're going to find a drop down that says teachers. So when we're talking about who should collaborate, we're hoping the intuitive answer is the teachers. So we go to view our teachers. Also, just a side note, we're having Nicole navigate the page and I'm walking through it so we can make sure I don't go too quick. So that should be helpful. Okay, so once I'm viewing all of my teachers, and again, this is fake data, so this is nobody's account. So when I'm looking at my teachers, I can start to think about who should be sharing content with whom. I might say I want all of my Gryffindor teachers to be collaborating on some school-wide content. Let's say we're doing some content for an upcoming event and all of the grade levels are going to be working on this together. I might want school-wide collaboration. So I would create a teacher group with my Gryffindor teachers. So first I can create the group with the plus sign on the left side of the page that next to where it says teacher group. And I can, let's see. Oh yes, good. Okay, I can see Sam interjected on Skype. There is a chat option. So if you have questions as we're going through, please feel free to write them into the chat and our team is ready to just respond. Okay, so we're creating a teacher group. So I've pressed that plus sign and now I have to name my group. We're going to go ahead and name this Gryffindor T's because I already have a Gryffindor teachers. So for this, Gryffindor T's, I'm going to press submit. And you're going to see that that adds the group to my teacher groups there. Next, I need to actually put teachers into that group. So if I want to checkbox next to some of the teachers in Gryffindor, so I check. We'll just check a couple of them right now. I'm then going to go up to teacher options on the right side of the page. Group options. Whoops. Add to group and put them into Gryffindor T's. So then if I click on that teacher group on the left side of the page, I'm going to see those 4 teachers listed. Also, when selecting all of your teachers, if you have a huge district, you're going to want to use the filters on the left side of the page to help navigate this a bit easier. You can filter by school, you can filter by grade level. So you've got those options there. Great. So once we've started to create teacher groups, because we want to try to move through this fairly quickly, once I've created all of my different groups, then I need to think about, how do I want them to share? How do I want them to collaborate? So we've seen two most popular approaches to this, which is the school will either say, I want everyone to collaborate with everyone, a very open approach to collaboration, and also the approach of, I want to restrict this. I don't want this group of teachers to see the collaboration happening over here. So those are really the two pathways you're going to see. Anyone want to interject on that? Brian, Nicole?
I would just add, I would say, like, think of it like who is going to be the content creator. Some districts that we work with, and we'll get to this towards the end of the presentation, will have all their teachers, as Julia said, hop up and create some content. Some will say, oh, we want to have a small team of content creators that are then pushing out common assessments to the rest of the district.
Yep. Yeah, so your groups are going to be, who do we want doing different roles? Who do we want working together? Your groups are where you're organizing your people. And now we're moving into, how do we organize the content? So how should they actually share with each other? So once we're in the teachers, we've got that set up, we're going to start looking at assignments. So Nicole, if you could navigate to the assignments dropdown, go to master assignments. This is going to show me all of the content that is being either created in the Edcite Schools master account or has been shared into an Edcite Schools folder. This account that we're demoing in right now has 3 Edcite Schools folders already in there. You can see CA, Common Assessment, and District Content. But let's say we want to create a school-based folder for the Gryffindor teachers. I can create a folder by using that blue little plus sign on the left side. Yep, perfect. So I can create a folder that says Gryffindor. Let's say we'll go with a school level folder. Perfect. It's always fun typing on a live screen. Thanks, Nicole. And so I'm going to see that that folder has been added under district content. I want to highlight how then you can create some subfolders, because depending on the level of organization you want to build into organizing content, you're probably going to want to add subfolders and another level of subfolders. So let's say within Gryffindor, I want to add math and ELA. To add a subfolder, I click on Gryffindor or whatever folder I want to be the parent folder, the root folder. Then I go back to that plus sign, and it's going to create a folder within Gryffindor. Perfect. So if you click on Gryffindor, you can see math is there. If I wanted to create a subfolder in math, let's say I wanted to create some grade levels, I could click on the math, then go to the plus sign and do, let's say, grade 3. And so now I'm starting to build in some structure so teachers can put content into the correct spot and you're not overwhelmed with a giant list. Now, you would go through this process to make sure you're building enough folders to meet the needs of every teacher that is using Edcite Schools. As Brian mentioned earlier, sometimes we have some content creators in our district, so you might make a folder specifically for district content creators, or you might just be making content for teachers to share. We'll get into some of the different use cases, but just how you do it is with that little blue plus sign, and you can build your levels of folders. So that is answering the question of how will we be sharing. So we've talked about who will be sharing, how they will be sharing, and now we just need to connect those. And that's where we talk about authorizations. And authorizations tend to be the stickiest part of this process, at least in my experience supporting different districts, that you'll create the teacher groups, you'll create the folders, and then it's like, why can't my teachers see my folders? You actually need to then authorize teachers to see those folders. So the place that I want to highlight this, because this is going to be the same on your sub-admin accounts and your admin accounts, is we're going to do the authorizations from the View Teachers page. So that's the page where we actually set up the groups. Great. So from there, I've got all my teacher groups listed. Gryffindor T's is still there. So if I go to group options, it's on, yep, perfect. Oh, actually, no, teacher options. I keep mixing those two up. And then I'm going to go down to authorized teachers. Yep. And I'm going to select Gryffindor T's. And then the assignment folder that we created, I want us to just authorize on the Gryffindor folder. So a side note here, if you authorize someone on a root level folder, you do not need to authorize them on all of the subfolders. They're automatically going to get access to the folders below. If you want to give access, let's say, so if you click Gryffindor, it should add that in there, perfect. If you wanted to just give, let's say, the math teachers access only to the math folder, you can authorize to only subfolders, and then they won't have access to the folder above. So folder access always flows downwards. So to make it easier, I tend to just authorize things on the highest level and give teachers more access to sharing. But again, that's going to be up to you about who do you want to have access to which folders. So then we click authorize.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. One thing I would add to that, Julia, just going back to the two examples you started with, if, as Julia was saying, if it's a special team of content creators, another thing you could do with subfolders is have a creators folder where they can work on their drafts, and then a separate folder for all the teachers with the finalized versions. So you can kind of introduce make sure that teachers are using only the final versions if you do that. That's another option with subfolders. Yep.
So we can go ahead and click authorize, and then it's going to go ahead and give access to those folders. Great, successfully authorized. So once you have created teacher groups, created folders, and then authorized teachers to see folders, you want to start putting content into folders. And for that, we want to highlight from a teacher account. So right now, so Nicole is actually toggling over to another demo account that is a teacher in this Edcite Schools account. So if we go to this teacher Allie's My Assignments, so for teachers, they're going to go to their content dropdown. They're going to go to My Assignments. And they are going to see on the left side of the page their Edcite Schools folders. So looking at this right now, this teacher, Allie, does not have access to the folder we just created, Gryffindor T's. And so we'll troubleshoot that, and I'll show you how to give this teacher access. But before then, let's just keep going with putting content into the schools folders that the teacher has access to. So let's say that the teacher wants to share that third item from the top, Park Test 1 or Park Task 1, thank you. So you would checkbox that. And there's two ways to do this. I prefer to go up to the top of the page. So if you scroll up, you're going to see a button that says To Folder. You click on that, And that allows you to say, okay, I want to put this into schools folders. I want to put this into district content. And maybe this needs to be math content customizable. So I press submit. And then when I go and look in that folder, district content, math content customizable, I'm going to see Park Task 1 was added by Allie on November 14th. A quick note, you may have noticed when we click that highest level folder, district content, well, if you click that one, yep, you'll be like, oh, there's no content in this folder. This is a checkbox that I've seen people miss before. If you scroll to the very top, you have the choice to show subfolder content or not. So we've heard from schools that sometimes they would prefer not to see everything. They only want to see things in their subfolders. If you would like to see everything at that top level, if you checkbox show subfolder content, it's going to show me the content without needing to go into each subfolder. And then clicking on a subfolder will just filter it. So then if you click on customizable, it will then restrict to only the ones in that subfolder. Okay, great. Now, when talking about sharing content into these folders, I want to highlight the fact that there is locked content, which means it's a common assessment, and there is regular unlocked content. So if your teachers are sharing content that they want to have aggregate data for, so let's say the third grade reading teacher makes a quiz, they want all of the other reading teachers to give the same quiz, and they want to look at content together, they need to lock that assignment before sharing it into the folder. So to walk through that process about how specifically to share content for common assessments, if I go into my all category, so that's just content that I've been building, hasn't necessarily been shared yet. And let's say I want to, we'll take that first one, nonfiction article, the kudzu plant. So if we just click on the name of it to edit, oh, actually, I think that's going to open it, yeah, in the editor. Perfect. I want to go to my settings. So right now, let's say I love this assignment. We're doing this exactly how I have it. I want to lock it and mark it as a common assessment. So I go to my settings gear, which is allowing me to change the settings of this assignment. And there's that second box, checkbox, mark as common assessment. Great. Save changes. This just lets you know that once it's marked as a common assessment, it can't be altered. If I scroll down, I don't have the option to edit any of these questions with those little pencils and X's that I usually do. So I can go ahead and save this. Great. And now when I go to my assignments, yeah, perfect. We can make it active. Perfect. I'm going to see the nonfiction article, the kudzu plant, it has a lock symbol next to it now. So when I share that into an Edcite Schools folder, it can be used as a common assessment and nobody can customize that. And then Brian, do you want to comment about the coloring on the lock symbols?
Yeah,
the white versus the gray.
Absolutely. So common assessments, when a teacher assigns it, what they're really doing is they're making a little copy of it in their account and sending that to students. The original copy of the common assessment, if you're a content creator, will show up as white in your account. For any of the teachers who come in and copy that, it's going to be a grayed out copy. And the only other thing that I would note here that I've seen trip people up before is it's very important that you mark the common assessment before teachers come in and copy and assign it. You can't retroactively go back and designate something as a common assessment because that tells our system, when you mark that, it tells it anytime a teacher copies this, keep a record of it, and let's store the data all in the same reports. So if you want your reports to come all together for the common assessment, make sure you mark it and see that lock symbol before teachers are copying and assigning.
Right. Yep, thank you. So let's go ahead and share that kudzu plant assignment into the district. Let's put it into the non-customizable math folder. So I'm going to go to folder, schools folders, district content, and then math content locked. Submit. Great. So now the other thing I want to point out here is that when I go into my Edcite Schools folders, I can see that that has been shared. I want to point out next to that column that says teacher, and it's got Allie's, well, she should set a profile picture, but until she does, the little pink person, there is a little bubble with a 0 in it. So this allows your teachers to comment about the content. And this is where we start getting into giving feedback to each other and pointing out any errors or mistakes in the content. So if I wanted to send, or if I'm the content creator and I want to send a note to all the teachers looking at this, I can click on that comment bubble and I can say, please be sure to have this completed by November 15th or like 11:15. Perfect. And then I can press post, and then teachers are going to see when I posted that, and it will have a record of any feedback. So I've seen teachers use commenting effectively to say, hey, question 1 has a typo, and then that can prompt the content creator to go in and fix that. Okay, so with our last, 5 to 7 minutes, I just want to highlight a couple of the biggest errors we see, and then go over those use cases. So when we got into Allie's account here, we noticed that her schools folders, she had access to the CA folder and the district content folder. But I just created that Gryffindor T's folder. Why doesn't she have access? So for troubleshooting, when people do not have access to a folder, I recommend going into your admin account. So if we go into the assignments, master assignments, if I go to the Gryffindor folder and I click on that, and actually those 4 buttons that you see, the ... the plus, the edit bar, and the person, those are available on the teachers and sub-admin side too. I just want to highlight it from the admin perspective. So if I click on Gryffindor, it's going to give me information about that folder. And I'm going to click on the little person icon to tell me which groups are authorized. So I can see the Gryffindor T's teacher group has access to that. And then I can click on that group name to actually see which teachers are in there. And I can see that Allie is not in that group. So that tells me that I need to add Allie into the Gryffindor T's group. So where do we add teachers to groups? In our View Teachers page. So if we exit out of that, and we go to Teachers, View Teachers, and we go to, let's just use our search box to type in Allie. Perfect. Yep. And then we can do group options, add to group, and then we're going to add her to Gryffindor T's. Okay, 1 teacher moved. Now, if we toggle back to that teacher's account, so if we go back to Allie's account, and if we refresh, thank you, we are now going to see schools folders. The Gryffindor folder is now there for that teacher. So that is like 90% of the time, the issue. When your teachers are saying, I can't see this content, the first thing you should check is who is authorized on that folder, and is that teacher in that authorized group. So with the last 4 minutes, we can just quickly go through some of the ways we've been seeing teachers effectively use the sharing options. So one of the coolest things we've seen is this Edcite factory item bank approach. So everything we went over for folders and authorizing teachers for folders in the assignments view applies to the questions view. So I can create folders that teachers will see when they go to the master questions or my questions. Now we've seen teams give access to folders at the question level and prompt teachers to create 10 questions for their subject and grade level, share them into a questions folder, and essentially build out an item bank. Then we have seen teams get together, go through those questions, and collaboratively assemble assignments to send out to their students. And so that's a very collaborative approach. It's very much putting the creation out there for teachers. We've also seen the approach where content creators from a district or from a school create all of the content and then push it out to teachers. So that is more collaborative on your coach's end and more of a content consumer on your teacher's part. And then I think we've also seen a nice mixture of the two approaches together, where you have one folder, like Brian was mentioning, for content creators. They're authorized to just push content out of. And then you have some folders that are more free for all. Let's just let teachers share as they would like. So with our last 2 minutes, Brian, Nicole, Sam, do you guys want to add anything? Or are there any questions?
I think you did a pretty good job covering it. Maybe we should open it up to questions if anyone has them.
Yeah, and also a reminder, we're being recorded, so if you're like asking a question, just know that. Crickets. That's okay. I mean, this is like the terrible teacher move where you're like, great, no questions. I must have explained that well. Not good. Check for understanding. Okay, well, if you want, we're going to hang out on this for the next 5 minutes. So if you want to type in questions. Okay, so if we want to have all the data together for any assignment, we need to make it a common assessment. Yes, 100%. And it has to be a common assessment before teachers give it. So if you have one teacher who created the assignment and they want their colleagues to use it, they have to mark it as a common assessment before they share it. Great question.
And just piggybacking off of that, really, right, there's 2 ways to send out a common assessment. It can be teacher assigned or it can be district distributed, but you should mark it as a common assessment before you set up both of those things.
Yeah.